Birmingham, June 21, 2026. A 32-year-old woman steps to the start line of a national championship 800-meter final. No crowd chanting her name, no cameras rushing to find her. The biggest story in that stadium right now is happening in a completely different race, where Keely Hodgkinson, the reigning Olympic champion, is walking off the track in tears before the gun even fires. Every eye in Alexander Stadium is on that. Nobody is watching lane 1. Nobody is ready for what is about to happen. The gun goes. Georgia Hunter Bell hits the front immediately, and she does not let go. She reaches the bell, the halfway point of the race, in 57.02 seconds. That is a front-running pace that breaks most people who attempt it. Izzy Beaufoy is right behind her, pushing as hard as she can, trying to close a gap that simply refuses to close. Then comes the second lap. Most runners fall apart here. Hunter Bell does the opposite. She powers down the home straight, looking controlled, looking strong, looking like someone who knew exactly what she was about to do before she even stepped outside that morning. She crosses the line in 1 minute 55.93 seconds. The crowd takes a second to process it. Then the realization hits. That time just erased a championship record set by Dame Kelly Holmes in 1995. 31 years. Gone in one Sunday afternoon. She also wiped out the stadium record held by Francine Niyonsaba since 2016. 2 records, 1 race, and almost nobody saw it coming. To understand why this moment is so extraordinary, you have to go back, not to last year, not to Paris 2024. You have to go back to a woman sitting at a desk in London, answering emails about cybersecurity for a firm called HackerOwn, with absolutely no intention of ever running competitively again. That was Georgia Hunter Bell just 4 years ago. Nobody in that office knew she had once held an English school's 800-meter title at under 15 level. Nobody knew she had earned a full athletic scholarship to UC Berkeley in the United States. Nobody knew any of it because that chapter felt completely closed. She went to Berkeley at 21, believing it was the beginning of something. It turned into the end. Injuries piled up. Times got worse instead of better. The girl who had been called the runner her entire life by family, by teachers, by everyone around her, was quietly declining at the sport she had built her identity on. She ran her final race at 23 in the NCAA. She knew walking to that start line, it was going to be her last. She felt nothing. No nerves, no fear, no excitement, just numb. She said recently that the nerves she feels now before a race are actually a good sign, proof that she cares. That day she felt none of that. She crossed the line, she was done, and in many ways a part of her was relieved. What followed was the part nobody talks about enough. She moved back to London. She gained weight. She went out too much. She stayed in bed in the mornings because there was nothing pulling her out of it. She was not a good friend. She was not a good daughter. She said herself that she was not a very good version of herself at all. She went to therapy for around 5 months, working through who she was without running. That process, as painful as it was, is also what saved her. She took a job in tech sales. She liked it well enough, but it was never going to fill the space that running had left behind. Then COVID-19 hit. Gyms closed. Offices shut, and one day she went for a run, not to compete, not to prove anything, just to move. She started turning up at her local park run on Saturday mornings with a few hundred other people doing the same thing. One weekend she clocked 16 minutes 14 seconds for 5 kilometers, on her own. No coach, no plan, no training block, just fitness she had been quietly building through cycling and casual running. That number lit something up in her. Someone at the park run told her she should call her old coach. She was nervous. She called anyway. That coach was Trevor Painter, the same man who coaches Keely Hodgkinson. He almost did not take the call. His wife, Jenny Meadows, who is also part of the coaching team, said at the time that the ship had probably sailed. Painter decided to give it a go anyway. He would later say he is very glad he did. Georgia joined the training group. She was still working full-time. She was waking up at 5 a.m. for sessions alongside athletes who had never stopped training at elite level. She used her annual leave to join a training camp in South Africa, where Painter and Meadows pulled her aside and told her she could run the Olympic qualifying standard. She needed to hear that from people she trusted. That conversation changed the direction of everything. The progression from that point barely made sense to anyone watching from outside. She broke 2 minutes in the 800 meter for the first time in May 2024, running 1 minute 59.93 seconds. She was 30 years old. That same summer, she stood on the Olympic podium in Paris, breaking the British record in the 1500 meter with 3 minutes 52.61 seconds. She was born in Paris. She won her Olympic bronze in Paris. Then in 2025, she went to the World Athletics Championship Championships in Tokyo, chose the 800 meter, ran a personal best of 1 minute 54.90 seconds, and won silver, finishing ahead of Hodgkinson herself. A year after breaking 2 minutes for the first time, she was the second fastest 800 meter runner in the world. In March 2026, she won gold at the World Indoor Championships in Torun, clocking a British indoor record of 3 minutes 58.53 seconds. And then she came to Birmingham and broke a record that had been sitting untouched since 1995. This is not a comeback story. Comeback stories have an ending. This is something different. This is a woman who walked away, rebuilt herself from the ground up, found out who she was without the sport, and came back carrying something nobody else on any start line has. She has lived the other side. She knows what a desk job feels like. She knows what it feels like to have no purpose pulling you out of bed. And now every time she stands on a track, she knows exactly how rare this is and exactly how much she wants it. London Diamond League, July 18. Hunter Bell, Hodgkinson, Audrey Werrow, who ran 1 minute 53.98 seconds in Stockholm just weeks ago. Then the European Championships in August, back at Alexander Stadium, the same track where she just erased 31 years of history. LA 2028 after that. A woman who was answering emails about cyber attacks just 4 years ago is now one of the most dangerous middle distance runners on the planet. And she is just getting started. Nobody in that stadium in Staten Island expected what was about to happen. Noah Lyles walked into the USATF Indoor Championships on March 1, 2026, carrying his championship belt, carrying his Olympic gold medal from Paris 2024, and carrying a public warning he had already delivered to every reporter in the building that nobody was leaving that arena with his belt. He had not competed at these championships in over 9 years. He showed up specifically to make a statement. What happened instead was something nobody saw coming, and the story behind it goes back much further than that one race. Jordan Anthony grew up in Tylertown, Mississippi, population under 2,000, football town, Friday nights, stadium lights, and a kid who wanted the Heisman Trophy, not a starting block. He was a 4-star recruit, one of the top 12 athletes in the entire state of Mississippi, and he signed with the University of Kentucky as a wide receiver. Track was something he did, in his own words, for giggles. He ran to stay sharp for football routes, nothing more. Then his football career started slipping through his fingers. 2 games at Kentucky, a transfer to Texas A&M, 4 more games, another transfer to Arkansas, where his entire 2024 college football career ended at 8 catches, 111 yards, and 1 touchdown. 3 schools, 4 years. The depth charts never moved for him. Before the 2024-25 season, he made a decision. He walked away from football completely and went all in on the track. That first full year on the track, 2025, erased every question mark immediately. Anthony won the NSCA Indoor Championship in the 60 meters. He won the NSCA Outdoor Championship in the 100 meters, running from lane 9, the worst position on the track, and winning by just 0.03 seconds. He ran 9.95 seconds in the 100 meters at the SEC Championships, a personal best that still stands. At the NCAA West qualifier, he ran a wind-aided 9.75, tying the second fastest collegiate mark in history under any conditions. He became the first sprinter since 2017 to sweep both the indoor and outdoor national titles in the same season, and in December of that year, he won the Bowerman Award, the highest individual honor in American college track and field. Standing at the podium, he said, "A football player winning the Bowerman. That's crazy." He signed with Adidas, turned professional, and then made a move that would create the most awkward rivalry in sprinting. He joined Noah Lyles' own training group in Claremont, Florida, under coach Lance Broman. Every single day, Anthony trained beside the man who owned the sport. Lyles had Olympic 100-meter gold, 4 200-meter world titles, and the American record at 19.31 seconds in the 200. The 2026 indoor season did not start well for Anthony. He finished 3rd at the Millrose Games on February 1st, running 6.64 seconds. People immediately said he could not handle the professional level. He used it as fuel. 13 days later, on February 13th at the Tyson Invitational in Fayetteville, Arkansas, he ran 6.43 seconds, the fastest 60 meters in the world in 2026, and tied for 10th fastest all time, counted out to world leader in under 2 weeks. He said afterward, "Everybody said I fell off. Those 2 races did a lot to me. I needed a little bit of humbling to remember who I am." Then came March 1st. Lyles told reporters nobody was taking his belt. The gun fired. Anthony was leading at 30 meters, and by 50 meters it was over. He crossed in 6.45 seconds. Trayvon Bromell, the 2016 World Indoor Champion, finished second in 6.47. Noah Lyles, the reigning Olympic champion, finished third in 6.51. Lyles walked over, removed the championship belt, and handed it to Anthony. Cameras caught Anthony quietly wiping Lyles's fingerprints off the belt while Lyles kept talking. That clip went viral within hours. Lyles leaned in with a smile and said, "You're just babysitting the belt for me. It likes a bedtime story at 8 p.m. Anthony stepped to the microphone and said, "I looked to my right and my left and I was like, I don't hear Noah. I don't see Trayvon." GG's in the chat. New generation is taking over. Today was the day I had to give them their eviction notice. He was 21 years old. But here is the part nobody was talking about. Anthony had just qualified for the 2026 World Athletics Indoor Championships in Toru, Poland, and it would be the first time in his entire life he had ever left the United States. No passport stamps, no overseas experience. His first international race ever would be a World Championship final. He arrived as the world leader. Every coach in that building had already studied his race in Staten Island. Nobody was sneaking up on anyone. And then something went wrong that nobody in the stands would ever know about. Before the final, Anthony went through mandatory anti-doping control. The blood draw did not go cleanly. A blood clot formed in his left arm. The swelling reached roughly the size of a soccer ball. He could not fully twist or extend that arm. In a 60-meter sprint, your arms drive everything the explosion out of the blocks. The mechanics through acceleration, the coordination all the way through the finish line. Anthony could not move that arm correctly. Most athletes would have withdrawn. Nobody would have blamed him. He ran anyway. The field included Keshawn Thompson of Jamaica, who had run 9.77 in the 100 meters, and Bromell, who had gone 6.42 in the semifinal faster than Anthony's personal best. The gun fired. He came out clean. He held his form through the middle 30 meters. Then he pulled away. 6,041 seconds. World champion. Thompson took silver. Bromell took bronze. After crossing the line, Anthony said, "God put this dog in me." Then he walked over and started signing autographs and taking photos with fans. He said the race felt easy. Back home in Florida, Lyles posted on social media immediately, "Stop playing on this man. First-year world champion." Before the championships, Lyles had already told reporters, "I watched Jordan at the beginning of the year and I was like, well, I'm not going to indoors, so I guess he's winning." Bromell, the veteran who had won the same title 10 years earlier, said after the race, "Looking at Jordan, I see a mirror image of myself from 10 years ago. You don't see too many talents like him. The world record belongs to Christian Coleman, 6.34 seconds, set in 2018, untouched for 8 years. The gap between that and Anthony right now is 0.07 seconds. He is 21. On May 17th, at the Seiko Golden Grand Prix in Tokyo, he ran 20.05 seconds in the 200 meters into a headwind of 1.3 m/, winning his first professional outdoor race by 0.23 seconds. The outdoor season is not halfway done. A kid from Tylertown who started sprinting for giggles just became world champion, and the record books are nowhere near safe. A 22-year-old kid from Brisbane, who started his athletic career on a rugby pitch, stepped into the blocks for a 100-meter heat. The gun fired. He came out clean, built through the middle, and in the final 40 meters, he simply pulled away from everyone like they were standing still. He crossed the line, looked up. The clock read 9.96 seconds. Wind plus 0.2 meters per second. Legal, official, historic. Lachlan Kennedy had just become the first Australian man to break 10 seconds on home soil in the recorded history of the sport. Every sub-10 before this had happened overseas or was wind-assisted and never ratified. This one was clean, this one was home, and this one belonged to him forever. Then he came back 24 hours later and did it again. April 11th, the national final. Rohan Browning got out fast. Joshua Azzopardi pushed hard. Neither man could touch Kennedy in the second half. He stretched away from both of them like he was running a completely different race. The clock stopped at 9.96 seconds again. Wind plus 0.5 meters per second. Azzopardi finished second in 10.16. Browning took third in 10.19. The gap was not close. Kennedy had broken 10 seconds twice in the same championship, won his first Australian national title and set the championship record at Sydney Olympic Park. 2 days, 2 races, 2 9.96s. The same man, the same track, no accidents. Now here is what makes this story different from every other fast time you have ever heard about. Kennedy was not supposed to be here. He grew up in Brisbane attending St. Joseph's College Gregory Terrace, and before he ever wore spikes, he wore a rugby jersey. He was not just a casual rugby player either. He was good enough to represent Australia at the junior international level in rugby union. Speed was always his weapon, but the track was never the plan. Then he made a decision that changed everything. He walked away from rugby and committed entirely to sprinting. The results came fast. In 2022, at just 18 years old, he joined Australia's under-24 relay squad and helped break a 12-year-old national record, running 39.30 seconds. That same year, he competed at the World Athletics Under-20 Championships in Cali, Colombia. He was learning, he was building, he was nowhere near finished. By 2024, he was at the Paris Olympics, not as a reserve, as a genuine contributor to Australia's 4x100 relay team that set a new Oceania record of 38.12 seconds. A junior rugby player turned Olympian in 2 years. Then in January 2025, competing in Canberra, he ran 60 meters in 6.43 seconds. That single run erased the previous Australian and Oceania record and placed him inside the top 10 fastest men in history over that distance. People immediately called it fake, wind-assisted, questionable timing. The track community was skeptical. 2 months later, Kennedy carried that same form to the World Athletics Indoor Championships in Nanjing, China, his first ever indoor race. He ran 6.52 in the heats, held off Ronnie Baker in the semis, and stood in a World Championship final against the best men on the planet. He ran 6.50 seconds, silver medal, 0.01 seconds behind winner Jeremiah Azu of Great Britain. The doubters had nothing left to say. Then in May 2025, at the Kipco Classic in Nairobi, he ran 9.98 seconds over 100 meters, only the second Australian in history to legally break the 10-second barrier, joining Patrick Johnson, who had done it in Japan back in 2003. The trajectory was steep, the ceiling looked limitless, and then it stopped completely. Noah Lyles got married on April 4, 2026. 13 days later, he stepped into starting blocks at a small meet in Florida. No Olympics on the line, no World Championship crowd. Just a man 2 weeks past his wedding, fresh off 7 months away from his best event. He ran 19.91 seconds, the fastest time in the entire field, and that was only day 1. The ceremony happened at the conservatory at Blackberry Ridge in Trenton, Georgia. The theme was all shades of melanin, brown and gold everywhere. The suits, the bridesmaid gowns, the flowers. Noah Lyles married Jamaican sprinter Janelle Bramfield in front of everyone they loved. But the moment that stopped people had nothing to do with speed. Lyles had kept a secret for weeks. Janelle's favorite gospel singer, Tasha Cobbs Leonard, showed up and performed at the reception. Nobody knew it was coming, not even Janelle. Then came the vows. Janelle's hands shook so badly she could not hold her vow book, so Lyles held it for her. Both of them were crying at the altar. He told Vogue afterward, "I ended up holding it for her, but I was also crying so I couldn't wipe away my own tears." Janelle grew up in poverty in Jamaica. She was raised by a single mother alongside 7 siblings. Her mother passed away in 2021 from stage 4 cervical cancer. Walking down that aisle was proof of everything her mother had prayed for. Lyles thought Janelle would wear a mermaid dress. He is known to dislike that style. She walked out in a princess dress instead. His reaction went viral. The internet said he did not show enough excitement. Janelle shut it down herself. She said his reaction was exactly what she needed. The couple had been together since 2022. They got baptized together in October 2025. They announced their engagement that same month. And now, with the wedding behind them, most people assumed Lyles would take time off. He did not. April 17th, 2026, the Tom Jones Memorial Invitational in Gainesville, Florida. This is not a Diamond League event. It is a Continental Tour Challenger meet. Athletes use it to shake off rust and test their shape without the pressure of a major title on the line. Lyles had not run the 200 meters since winning the world title in Tokyo in September 2025. That is 7 months away from his best event. He had also skipped the World Athletics Indoor Championships entirely. The dates fell too close to his April 4th wedding, and he chose Janelle. Now, just 13 days after the ceremony, he was back in the blocks. In the first heat of the Olympic Development 200-meter race, Lyles crossed the line in 19.91 seconds, wind reading of plus 1.6 meters per second, legal and fast. That time was the best in the men's 200-meter field across all 6 heats. Behind him, 2025 USA Outdoor Championships finalist Max Thomas ran 19.98 seconds. That was the first time Thomas had ever broken 20 seconds in his career. And then there was 18-year-old Tate Taylor. He ran 20.05 seconds. That time broke the high school record that Noah Lyles himself had set years earlier at 20:09. Let that land. The next generation came to Gainesville chasing Lyles's old records. Lyles came to Gainesville 2 weeks after his wedding and beat every single one of them. But here is where it gets more interesting. 2 months before the wedding, Lyles competed at the USAF Indoor Championships in Staten Island, New York. He ran the 60 meters. He finished third. The man who won that race was Jordan Anthony. Anthony posted 6.45 seconds. Lyles ran 6.51 and finished behind both Anthony and Trayvon Bramall. After the race, Jordan Anthony told reporters, "Lyles was just bringing old age right now." That quote spread fast. The Olympic 100-meter champion, the 4-time 200-meter world champion, getting called old by his own training partner at Pure Athletics. So what happened next? The morning after Lyles ran 19.91 seconds in the 200 meters, he came back to the track for a 4x100-meter relay. His team was called Gainesville Elite. The lineup included Jordan Anthony, Trayvon Bramall, and 18-year-old British sprinter Jaco Jordan. Together they ran 37.78 seconds. They beat the national squad, and Jordan Anthony, the same man who called Lyles old just 2 months earlier, ran a personal best of 9.91 seconds in the individual 100 meters that same day. Anthony was still running brilliantly. Nobody took anything away from him, but Lyles anchored the team that beat everyone. Remember the fans' year comment? Before the 2026 season started, Lyles said publicly, "I've decided to take this year and say this is a fans' year in our sport. That is not a man stepping back. That is a man building something." On May 17th, he races the 100 meters at the Seiko Golden Grand Prix in Tokyo, the same city where he won bronze at the 2021 Olympics while battling depression, the same city where he stood in front of 59,000 people in September 2025 and held up 4 fingers after winning his 4th consecutive 200-meter world title. On June 4th, he headlines the 100 meters at the Rome Diamond League Golden Gala. He has not raced that meet since a famous 200-meter battle with Michael Norman in 2019. He has called that race one of his all-time favorites. On June 28th, he runs the Paris Diamond League at the Stade de France, the exact track, the exact stadium, the same surface where 2 years ago he ran 9.79 seconds and became the fastest man in the world at the distance. He currently holds 6 Diamond League titles. One more gives him the outright all-time record. A man who got married on April 4th, who cried at the altar holding his wife's vow book, who had not run the 200 meters in 7 months, who had been called old by his training partner in March. 13 days after the wedding, he ran 19.91 seconds, anchored a relay team to a 37.78 the next morning, beat the teenager who broke his own high school record.
She hadn't raced 800 meters in 8 years. Her last time was 2 minutes 19 seconds. On February 8, 2026, she stepped onto the track in Metz, France, with 0 professional experience at this distance. She crossed the finish line in 1 minute 59.07 seconds. A national record. On her debut. Nobody expected this. And once you hear the full story, you will understand exactly why this is one of the boldest moves in track history. Femke Bol was born on February 23, 2000, in Amersfoort, Netherlands. She started running at 14. By 15, she was already winning Dutch national titles in the 400 meters. In 2019, her coach asked her to try the hurdles. She had never done it before. She won the European Under-20 hurdles title that same summer. She had been hurdling for only a few months. In early 2023, she broke an indoor 400-meter world record that had stood since 1982. She ran 49.26 seconds at the Dutch Nationals and erased Jarmila Kratochvalova's 41-year-old record like it had never existed. She later lowered it again to 49.16 seconds. At the 2023 World Championships in Budapest, she fell face first on the relay track just before the finish line and lost the baton. 3 days later, she came back and won her first individual world title in the 400 meters hurdles. Then she anchored the women's relay team to gold from behind. Sports journalists called it the fall and rise of Femke Bol. By 2025, she had 30 consecutive Diamond League victories, 5 Diamond League titles, 2 World Championship titles, 4 Olympic medals. She had won everything. But here is the part nobody talks about. Every single time Femke Bol raced Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone, she lost. 3 races, 3 losses, 0 wins. Sydney's world record sits at 50.37 seconds. Femke's personal best is 50.95 seconds. That 0.58 second gap sounds small. It is not. Sydney has lowered her world record at every major global championship this decade. The gap was not closing. It was staying the same. And Sydney kept running. Sydney's world record scores 1,322 points on the World Athletics scoring tables. That is higher than any other women's track world record in existence. Not just in hurdles, any event, anywhere. She stayed. She went undefeated in 2025. She won her second world title in